All right, guys. Hey, welcome in Wingman 115, Straight Edge Knives, Jason Fleming, Offhand Air Gunner, Charles Jones, Tony Boombots. Guys, welcome to Work Tough Gear Wednesday, another edition. I've got Hunter Crutchin with me, and I'm going to let Hunter take a quick second. Go ahead, Bubba, and introduce yourself and a little bit of your background. Brandon, what's up?
What's up, guys? This is DB HEMLOCK. I, of course, have the Ares with Work Tough Gear. And sitting here chatting with Scab, gonna just talk about some of my principles and ideas behind the knife design and just generally have a good time. So I'm glad you joined us.
Yeah, guys, welcome in. And same thing, man. If y'all have a question, pop it up. We'll put it up for Hunter or DB. Now, let's talk about that first. DB
Okay.
Hemlock. Mm-hmm. Where'd that come from?
Well, it's a amalgamation of various things. First and foremost, it starts for my customization, which is designs by Hemlock. And also, if you look at my symbol that's on my blade stamp, that's got a whole story behind it. The eyes itself on that skull stand for the alchemical design for life and death. The whimsical Cheshire grin of the skull is what actually happens to you when you pass away by ingesting hemlock. Well, water hemlock was one of the things that are around here in South Dakota is quite deadly and grows naturally around here. So it also stands for death by hemlock. I don't recommend you use a hemlock to do any of those dirty deeds, but you can. But the most of it is designs by hemlock.
I got you. Well, yeah. That's what I wanted to say too. And guys, for those of y'all coming in, Brandon, welcome. Rusty, welcome. Of all the designers that I've talked to, I think you're the one who wanted to give me the most information. But you're very, very detailed, and I like that. So for those of you who don't know, show the Ares again, brother. Let's do this. Actually, let's do this, DB. Let's show the prototype and then show the production type, if you will. Because
I'll do you one better. I'll do you one better. Here, I get it on camera, is the very first prototype. This was made by Tim Ellis. And it's got black walnut scales. This was the very first prototype. You'll recognize this one. This is the one you tested for me.
Okay.
Got it right here. And as you can see, the blade doesn't quite go as far up on this version. It's a lot thicker, a lot beefier. And this is, of course, the final production piece.
Now, I know it because you and I talked, but I thought it was cool. I thought your concept behind the knife was cool. Tell everybody your concept, and then we'll do a couple of questions like we're doing now, and then we'll free form it a little more and just casual talk. But I think this part's important.
Yeah, so concept behind the knife was I wanted to destroy the argument that you shouldn't baton with your knife. I was tired of listening to that old adage that people were constantly complaining about online. It was popular in the TOPS groups, popular in the SE groups, popular somewhat in the Work Tough Gear groups. But a common misconception was always, you can't baton with your knife, get an axe. Well, I'm not an axe guy. I think that anything with a wooden handle is begging to be broken. That's not saying that an axe is a bad tool by any means, because certainly an axe can do more than the Ares can when it comes to, felling some bigger trees and splitting wood. But I wanted to bridge the threshold between what is a knife, what is a camp axe, hatchet, and how can I blend all of them into one package so you can carry the one individual tool and not have to worry about toting around multiple different options, and certainly something that isn't, 3 foot long haft on it as well, just in case you were in a, shit hit the fan scenario and you really needed to, fell something. That's where the beginnings of the Ares design really came into play. Was I wanted something that was extraordinarily robust. It bridged the threshold between what you would actually call a knife anymore and I wanted it to be something that you could just punish it all day long and it would never break. That was really what I wanted every aspect of the knife to be, was it would be damn near impossible under any intense usage through human means to break the knife.
Yeah.
And that's, you know, honestly just the cups of it, the tip of the iceberg of where I designed the Ares for. A lot of people wanted to ask, you know, hey, why didn't you raise the grind higher? It'd be, you know, a lot more choppier, you know, slicier. You can get better, deeper bites. And then we got a plethora of amazing knives out there already by amazing designers that bite like a vampire. You know, we've got the Nomad. I mean, right off the bat, the Nomad Camp, Zeke created a devil right there. It's nasty. Alex with the Kodiak, that thing is nasty. I didn't want to make something that bit. I wanted something that you chunked things out with, that no matter what, it was just going to go through it.
Well, and that's why from the first time we talked, I have a special affinity for that knife, because you can't you can. Keeping it in the realm of what you should use it for, and I think that's important for everybody to understand. If you keep it in that realm, it is damn near indestructible. But now you guys listen to a lot of feedback. You did change the grind somewhat on the production run, correct?
I did. Yep. The prototype that you tested out is almost a 4 millimeter thick at the blade edge. So right behind the edge grind here, that was at like 4 mil thick.
Right.
And it was just a chunk. It was a bit over the top. And although it split like a wood splitter, it was just a little bit more than what I wanted it to be, because I still had, like I said, I got to blend those thresholds between what is an axe and what is a knife. You know, if you look at a split and maul versus a race axe, you know, the grinds are significantly different on the two of them. So I had to really think about, okay, I want this to really push towards that hatchet camp axe side of things. So narrowing up the grind was just a no-brainer.
Well, and here's the thing. I just read a comment by Wingman, which he's right. He did a tri-stick because he wanted to use it for detailed work, which I think is important. I think it's very important.
Oh, yeah.
Just like the knife I did a test of today, the Wilson. The one thing I'll say about your knife, Jeremy's knife, Work Tough Gears knives in general, this is why I wanted to have you guys on, to explain, because people see them and go, chopper, especially on my channel, right?
Yeah.
And it does. And people kept saying, oh, the bite and this with me, it bit fine. If you watch the video, I wrecked shit. So I wasn't worried about the bite. I wanted, off of our conversation, and I even said this to you, because I don't do this often. I don't really talk to the designer much beforehand, and then I like to afterwards.
Yeah, you didn't want to know anything ahead of time. You wanted to walk into it and just discover it as it went. And Wingman, if you're listening, he did something that no one else did. He did a tri-stick, and I would love for him to get the actual version in his hands, because just that geometry change makes a massive difference for doing that fine carving details. Now, granted, this is not a Scandi ground Mora, we're not going for Feather Stick King over here. But it will make a massive difference.
At the same time, and I want to get my hands on one. I need to get with Vic.
Yeah.
I've got to get over. I got to get over, because Mr. Vic will send me, but I've got to just ask him, because that is a knife that I actually really do want. Okay.
I definitely hope you do. I want you to reach out to him. I've reached out to him a few times about it. He's just incredibly busy. Yeah. But I know he has sent me some pictures of batch number 2 that's releasing for the Ares. Got a couple of minute changes, not to the geometry or specs, but to the blade coatings. He's got some surprises there, and I know he's working on it. So you're definitely supposed to get one. You're hoping you reach out to him and grab one before they're all gone again.
He will. I'll make sure I mention it. But what I wanted to do with this one, though, is we will talk again. That's like even with John, with Wingmans, with the Laguna. I didn't say much to him about it. And I mean, people see these things, or the Nomad EDC or the Wilson or whatever. Once I've tested it, then I do like, and that's exactly why I wanted to have you guys on, because now I want to see how I matched up. Right?
Well, not even messed up.
Well, not match up, but I how close in my own mind I got to your mind. Let me say it.
Oh, I apologize. I thought you said messed up. I was like, you're not giving yourself enough credit, man.
No, matched up. Like I like doing that. Was I close? Did I, do we have the same thought process?
Exactly. Yeah.
But in looking at yours, and we'll kind of go more into it. The handle is how long? Actually, show the handle for me. This is why I want one too, because how long's the handle?
The handle is over 5 inches long at roughly 5 3/4, I believe. I designed it to have the multiple grips.
Yeah.
Because trying to get this on the camera here. There we go. The grips, the being able to change up where you're at on the knife, it changes the entire tool.
Yeah.
So, I mean, the handle is overly long than, your typical blade. Most knives, you're going to have, something you can choke up on. Others, you just get your one place where you hold your hand. So I wanted at least 3 places to dedicate to where your handhold is.
And see, that's what I like. That's what I like, because again, and I will get one this fall. We're setting up a couple of blocks for me. My guy Kirk, who really put the first work Tuff gear in my hand. He has a large piece of property, man, and we're making like an outdoor studio, right? Mm-hmm. We've got some old oak out there that's just hard as a brick. But what I like to do when you get those bigger handles and different handles, see, and I think that's important too. Like I'm looking here in the comment, Matt Pearson is 6'9", 300 and something pounds. Charles Jones, big man. So there's a lot of bigger guys that watch my channel. So, and for guys that have normal size hands, I want, it's important. Hey, this is a big knife. There's no doubt it's a big knife. Hey, this is a splitter. There's no doubt it's a splitter, but you can choke up on that choil. John proved it with if you can tri-stick with that thing, then you can do anything under the sun with it.
Exactly. And that's really what I strive to get out of it, and why I put so much time into, even making wooden prototypes of it before it ever went into metal. Starting off with just a piece of 1095 from Tim Ellis, because I wanted to get a feel for my knife. I'm a very firm believer that if you're going to put a design on the market and you want to stand behind it, then you need to be testing the heck out of it way before it ever reaches anyone else's eyes and ears. And with the Ares, you can choke up on it, and it has got a nice balance to it. Of course, it's still a little blade heavy, but it's still got a nice neutral game where you can work that feather stick. You can work those tri-sticks. You can get in there and do some carving tasks that you wouldn't even realize you're able to do. You can also utilize the lanyard hole right there. Right. Wrap a lanyard around it, wrap it around your wrist, utilize the tip. Now you got a Nulu.
Yeah.
So there's things you can do with the knife. What is the old phrase that says that you can do everything with a big knife that a small knife can do, but the same cannot be said the other way around? Granted, It's easier to clean your fingernails with a small knife. What was this?
That was Joe. Joe is my partner on Blade Talk.
Oh, nice, man. I appreciate that. I appreciate that very much. Definitely. Thank you.
But see this right here, what you've just done in a few minutes, because here's the thing, and you know as well as I do, people see that, I'm not a big knife guy. Okay. But you've just explained 3 or 4 different facets of it. That's why I think these are important. Rusty knife. Jason Fleming, I did not call you fat, buddy. I said you were big. You're robust, rotund.
We're big. I'm 250 pounds and 6 foot tall. Y'all seen my videos. I am not no track runner. I am fat. Okay, so big guys, big knives.
But I think people think I'm a lot bigger than I am. Well, I'm still 280 pounds, but I'm like 5'9" on a good day in work boots. But the thing is, with that knife, and I will get a production run. I'll tell you why, and I'm continually mentioning it because Mr. Vic does watch sometimes. But I wanted to set out because you and I had talked, and I wanted to do with your knife what you wanted done with the knife. That's what I wanted to do, right? Now I want to expand on that, and I've actually got a stump still out here that is ready for your knife. I've set it to the side. It's about 18. Well, it's probably a 10-inch diameter, but it's ready. So it'll be. Everybody's putting how big they are, but it'll be ready. But let's kind of pirouette. Let's kind of go away from that, and we'll talk about it. You also customize knives.
I do. Yeah,
Matt, you do need one. Talk to me a little bit about customizing, because I've seen some of your work, and your work is. Do you have anything there that you customize? I should have pre-warned you on that.
That's actually the thing. I don't hemlock my own stuff.
Really?
I will practice on my blades. I've probably blown through thousands of dollars of knives to practice on first. If I'm going to try a new challenging grind, or if I'm going to try a difficult etching or something like that, I would do it on one of my knives. So if I mess up a $500 knife, it's on me. It's not on the client. Right. But yeah, it's funny, as someone who, I guess if you want to call it an artist, someone who likes to dress things up. I'm a very minimalist kind of guy. I like the scratches, the patina, the natural patina and hard use look on a knife. To me, that's beautiful. That doesn't mean other people don't want that. So they want the full Hemlock custom job. And that's what I do. I love making people's, dreams a reality. And so I don't have any Hemlock custom pieces on me, but the way that works is, for the most part, for the more expensive pieces, I will take a knife that's mine, I own myself, and I'll spend several months working on it and try to really put in a ton of detail, a ton of work in it, and then, sell that to the general public or put it up for a raffle. Other than that, others will contact me and ask me to work on their own blades.
Now, can we go to Instagram? Joe just asked. Now, you do not have a YouTube channel, correct? Not yet.
Not yet. I'm working towards that goal. We'll get to that in a little bit with YouTube and like future plans. But right now, yes, you can go to Instagram at DB HEMLOCK and you'll see all my work. I do have a services page on Facebook, which is Hemlock Customs, and you can check that out. I'm way more active on Instagram as far as like replying to people. Facebook is a
That's actually, it's funny. Ron T. Sawyer, the best looking man on YouTube's in the house now. But John Wingman 115 actually said that. We were talking last week, and Facebook's just kind of okay.
It's dying.
But let me just say this to you guys in the room. Even while you're here, take a second and go look at my dude's work. It is first rate. And we're not going to name customers. I wouldn't do that, or clients that you've had. But let me just say this to you. DB HEMLOCK is known all around the world and in upper echelon of knife circles for his work. So
I appreciate
if
that.
you want custom, Matt Pearson, Charles, some of you guys, Keith Carpenter, DB's the guy. I can tell you that. But make sure y'all go to Instagram. And Joe, if you would, real quick, Straight Edge Knives, Jason Fleming. We're trying to help him out. Put a link to his page if you would do that for me, Joe. But talk to us a little bit. Tell me, if I sent you a knife, if you and I talked, walk me through it. It's not just acid etching the blade, right?
No, actually, I rarely ever work with acid anymore. Okay. I do use ferric chloride. I make my own ferric chloride now because well, the stuff gets expensive for one, but I also need to tailor it to how much I want into it, because you can get into various different chemicals and formulas to make certain looks. So when you get into it, you're part chemist, part artist, part mad scientist, and you got to be fully willing to walk up to that grinder and say, I could probably ruin a $500 knife. I could probably just ruin this thing in a heartbeat. And you got to just throw that out the window and get the guts and just go for it. And so if you come to me and you say, I want you to customize my knife, the first thing I'm going to ask you is, what do you want done? What is your goal? What is your dream? And if you have a basic idea of what you want, but really still don't know, I'll give you some options, throw down some, different designs I've done, or try to link you to some pictures of things I've done. If that's not suiting your fancy, I'll pull up different pictures and different files and such that I have on hand for you to take a look at and see, if that suits your fancy. But most people, I challenge them, I say, really think about exactly what you want, because my work isn't some little thin laser engraving that's going to scrape off and scuff off over time. I've got some etchings that go deeper than a 16th. I got some etchings that are an 1/8 of an inch deep. They're on the blade permanently, forever.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah. Yeah. Deep etching. My work, EJ Schneider on Naked and Afraid, he proved it before he threw it in the Amazon. That SXB Skull Crusher that I did for him went through hell and back.
Stop. Ooh. Back up and tell that story, because I saw your pup, man. My heart broke for you, but stop, back up. For those of you who don't know, this might be a tear-jerking moment, but it is one. It's mad cool. It's super cool.
Yeah, it is super cool.
It speaks to Hunter's actual skill set. So, Bubba, go ahead.
These EJ Schneider's blade and mine were sisters. These two knives came together from Schneider himself. He gave me one, told me what to do on the other one. Hemlocked it for him. So this is my personal blade of SXB Skull Crusher by Tops that EJ, the man himself who designed it, gave to me. So I got a message from EJ, and he needed it for, I really can't go into too much details about what he told me that he needed it for, but let's just say the time crunch was dire. I needed to get it done stat. So I pulled a 72-hour straight working on that knife for him. And that had my custom acid etch, which is called Raindrop Etching on the blade bevels. That is a monumentally tiresome etching process. Very tedious work. The entire blade on the flats up in here had the napping, so it had that stone napping appearance on it. And then to top it off, it had EJ's special numbers. So he had 1111 and 333 with some runes, Viking runes on either side here, just to make it more personal for him.
Right.
And I got it to him, practically overnighted it to him. And the sad thing was, the producer said it was just too pretty to take on the show.
Really?
For the first time, it was just too pretty. They didn't want it to take away from the survival aspects of the show, I believe. Don't quote me, but I believe that's what happened. And so he wasn't able to take it on his last journey, but they allowed him this time. And so he took it out there on the Amazon with them. And as we all know now, was his last trip out there, and he wanted to christen an epic adventure. And so a part of me, a part of him, and a part of our whole entire knife community is out there at the bottom of the Amazon, stuck in the mud, waiting for some, King Arthur to pull it from the mud someday. And that's going to be badass.
That's pretty dope. And that
yeah,
I do want to say this, and guys, like I said, we're not going to say a lot of his clients, because people wouldn't want to do that. But EJ's one of his clients. So that speaks to the quality of his work. Carl Ruger, how are you? Good to see you. So let me ask you this. Do you mess with the blade any? Do you sharpen? Do you change the grinds? Do you? Okay. You would totally, if I'm like, if I got my Ares and we go through all the stuff we do, and in a year I called you and said, hey, brother, I just want you to rework this, and you and I come up with a plan. You would totally change the grind if we discuss that. acid etch, personalize it. Now,
Getting into the grind aspects of things, it really depends on like what you want done. Okay, now if you came to me with the Ares and you said I want to turn this into a hollow grind, and no secondary bevel, I just want to hollow grind straight to the edge, I'd probably send it out for work. Right. If you wanted to do it like a convex, a full complete convex, I would do that. If you just wanted to knock off the shoulder and bring a higher saber up, I would do that. But when it comes to doing the grinds and such, most of my work is freehand. So you'll never get the precision of a master. You'll never get the precision of a machine. So I tend to do the grinds that are a little bit more easy for a freehand use, like convex. I do a lot of convexing. But if it's something that's challenging, like a hollow grind or whatnot, send that out. Now, I have done several tracker knives and tracker regrinds, and I don't really offer that anymore. Right. Tracker regrind is just so nightmare to do. But I have done them. And as far as like, if you wanted a swedge cut into it, if you wanted a clip point done to it, you wanted it Tonto, anything like that, yes, I'll modify the whole thing. And I've even repaired a lot of blades that way. People send me broken blades where the tip snapped off and you have 3 inches of tip missing, and turn it into a sax, turn it into a clip point, reshape the bevels to get what you want back into it. So when it comes to the grinding aspect of the bevel geometry, it's a lot of repair and reshape more than the wicked customs kind of style that they do. But yes, I will do that for you.
Okay. Well, that's important to note too. I'm seeing people are going to your Instagram now, and you should have some new followers. But I would say, guys, honestly, check out his custom work.
Appreciate that.
You seem to be a fan. Are you a fan of the tracker design?
I am a massive fan of the tracker. Tracker is probably the best knife because it's not a knife. It's the greatest knife ever made.
Now, are you the one did you line me up with the guy who made the tracker?
I'm always sharing the history of all the tracker knives, all the way from the Beck WSK to Tom Brown Jr. and everyone who, really had a hand in, tracker making. But or unless you're speaking of Clint Robinson and his Spartan.
The Spartan.
Yep.
It was me and you discussed that.
Exactly. Yeah.
Water 2 field. And he did a jam up job. That was a joy. That let me tell you a quick story there. When you're like, hey man, this guy, would you help? Yeah, be glad to send him my way. And I trusted him because I trusted you. And I'll back up a little bit. This morning on Instagram, I had a company hit me up, and and this is typical. They say, hey, listen, we like your videos. Would you like to review our knives? Here's our page. And what I always say is this: have you honestly seen my videos? Right. And I don't abuse them, but now if you're a folder and a lot of times that'll go away. But when you said, hey, Clint, I got it in, but I watched a video, the first video I ever watched of Blackie Thomas on that tracker.
I love
Blackie.
I would love to just spend an hour picking his mind just about black powder revolvers. He's a heck of a guy. He's an
awesome guy, man. And I think he went on somebody's live last weekend discussing just that. If you ever get down this way, let me know and we'll meet up with Blackie in South Alabama. It's awesome. But the tracker style, going back to it, I had zero experience with it other than seeing a Tops, right? And being like, yeah, I'll try one. But I'm a knife lover. And I think I think sometimes that people think, oh, he's just I'm not putting on. I get excited, man. And when Clint sent that, he did a jam up job, man. And I know that you had one. Did you have one and customize it and sell it?
I had 2 of them.
Yeah,
2. 2 from Clint. And one of them, I'll say it just had a slight issue with the secondary bevel. It wasn't any part of Clint's fault or anything like that, but between sharpening, reshaping, and everything like that, ended up having to do quite a bit of changing up on the bevel on that particular one. That wasn't Clint's fault or anything like that. That was just the nature of a tracker.
Gotcha.
Sometimes they're a real pain in the butt to work properly, and other times they just go great. But yeah, Clint's Spartan design did something with the tracker that I really loved, and it stepped away from the utilitarian side and went straight for the, I want to be a knife, I want to be a buoy, I want to be a fighter, I want to stab, cut, but also keep the woodsman functioning of a tracker.
Yeah. I'll be honest with you. That was probably the first one I had ever reviewed, demoed, whatever, and it was a joy. Because at the end of the day, when it's big like that, I mean, everybody knows what my channel is. Now we're getting better at doing testing and all that. But at the end of the day, if I'm struggling, I can go, it's a big knife. Let's just cut some shit. You know what I'm saying? Talk to me some, man, about, you don't have to say what state you live in unless you want to, but talk to me about like the woods around you. What inspired you with the Ares? What inspires you with a knife? Talk about being in the forest and your surroundings and that kind of thing.
We'll start off with what inspired me, because we're already on the same topic. And that would be the tracker, honestly. Okay, because the tracker is and we can talk more at length about the tracker, which might come up a little bit later for future endeavors. But as a tracker is a one-tool option that you can go into the wilderness and survive and do everything within a decent amount of success for virtually everything. It's not going to be the best fillet blade. It's not going to be the best chopper. It's not going to be the best, carving knife, but you can do everything within reason. And I wanted the Ares to be that one tool option. So that's where we started off with, was what can I make that's in knife form that is going to be able to handle what I foresee as a shit hit the fan scenario. I don't know if you're a fan or a follower of the TV show Alone.
I've seen it.
Okay. I love Alone.
I like the concept, dude.
Yeah. That's actually my goal here, and that leads on to the YouTube channel, is I'm trying to get on that show. I'm applying for it. I'm really gunning as hard as I can to get onto that show. And when I looked at that kind of mentality of, I have a limited resources of options, what can I make a knife that's a big knife that can handle multiple tasks? Now, I wouldn't say that I designed the Ares to go on alone. I just wanted that idea of, you're in the backwoods and your car breaks down. You're in a bush plane and it falls. You swim to shore. You got one thing strapped to your pack. What can I do with this? So I wanted my knife to be able to easily clean a fish. But if I had to hunker down for an extended period of time, I would want to be able to take down those 6-inch, 8-inch logs and build a proper shelter, not just a little lean-to, but something that's going to survive a winter. And sadly, you're not going to take a debris shelter and survive -15 wind chills for a sustained period of time. You need something with some sustenance there. So I wanted a knife that, if I went up to, just like I did with the very first prototype, I went up to a 13-inch plus diameter. How do you get into custom knives? I'll answer that in just a moment, Wingman. I went up to a 13-inch diameter frozen pine here in South Dakota, and I cut that down, batoned it down with the very first Ares prototype, just to prove a point. I can take down a pine tree that you should use a chainsaw for. I can also, clean a fish, clean a rabbit. I can do just about anything in between too. Bouncing off of that for Wingman here. Wow, how did you get into customizing knives? I've always been a fan of making things my own. I really need to feel like whatever I'm using, from my truck to my day-to-day life, I want it to be mine and look like something that belongs to me. So when I was in the cold steel group for a long time ago, and I used to carry a bunch of cold steel knives, there was a gentleman that was in there. His name was Pete. Excuse me. Don't know if I should name drop him or not.
That's up to you.
I don't know. I haven't asked permission, so I'm going to go ahead and say there was just a gentleman in the group, and he was an artist that liked to customize his own pocket knives. And I started off tinkering with mine, found out that I had a knack for it, and then just ran full bore and constantly, trying out different designs and different things. And most of that was, a lot of handle modifications, a lot of moving part modifications, getting locks to, be more fluid, just a lot of, tweaking to make the knife feel better. And then when I started develop,
you don't just do fixed blades, you do folders as well.
I prefer fixed blades, but yes, I do folders as well. Yeah. Okay. Folders, I cut my teeth on folders.
Gotcha.
And and you can tell by my teeth, yeah, they ruined me. I can't stand working on folders anymore now, to be honest. But I cut my teeth on folders and then moved into fixed blades, and I much prefer fixed blades now. I started dabbling in acid, and in a good way, not the bad way. And once I realized that you could throw something on a blade and make it yours, the addiction stuck, and then I had to get better and had to get more detailed, and it just kind of went from there.
Got another question for you. Ron T. Sawyer, have a good night, buddy. I love you.
As far as competing in alone, what are you doing to prepare for food while out there? Seems like that's the biggest obstacle for everyone on the show. From Offhand Air Gunner.
Great question.
That's a great question. And Offhand Air Gunner, that's something else I love, is air gunning. Anyway, moving on to the question, though, what am I doing to prepare? That's subjective, because region and location can change everything. As I'm sure everyone knows who's a fan of the show, there's places that are brimming with, constant, plenty of game, plenty of wildlife, plenty of wild edibles. There's plentiful food there. And then it just becomes a challenge of, who can battle their mind more so than feed their body, where other places like Patagonia was barren, had nothing. They couldn't get anything. This most recent season was, again, the same thing. I won't spoil that for anyone who hasn't seen it, but really hard to get food. So I guess what am I doing for preparing for it is studying as much as possible the fauna, flora, trying to get my wild edibles down to pat, because when it comes down to it, we would all love to go kill a moose, but you're probably going to be munching on tree bark 9 times out of 10. So
yeah, absolutely.
And the fact that
buddy,
I got a gut, and that helps as well.
Well, that Grugsy was asking.
Getting fancy with the Mr. Hemlock over here. Mr. Hemlock.
He's a good guy. He's a great guy.
Yeah,
he's a great channel.
He's awesome. I love his channel too. Mr. Hemlock, are you mentally and physically fit for the show? Because I always wonder how some people are even allowed on that show at all. That's a situation where I'd love to say yes. Say that again.
Don't you think it's mostly, it would have to be, obviously you can't go out there in terrible shape, but I think it's more mental.
I'd say it's 99% mental. It's a mental game. You have to have strong willpower. You have to have extremely strong frame of mind. You need to remain in the here and now at all times. You cannot start dwelling on family. You cannot start dwelling on life at home and letting the worries of life get to you.
Right.
You have to be grounded in the here and now, or you will fail. Even the best physical fitness out there, people will fail. As far as physical fitness is, I work construction. I'm out in the sun. I'm out in the cold. I can last endurance-wise. I am overweight, but in a situation like that, it's going to be per my gain. I have plenty of spare rations, so to speak.
Now, let me ask you this. How long? I know I just did a review I think it's Larry Roberts, and he was out there 64 days. Is it who's out there the longest?
It's who's out there the last, not the longest, other than the 100-day king. He outlasted everyone for the 100 days for that particular season. But it's mostly who's out there last. So if 9 of the contestants quit the very first day, the 10th one wins on day 1. So it's whoever can last the longest, regardless of the day count for the normal situation, unless that one particular season they bring back that caveat to being 100 days.
Now, wasn't Fowler? Was Fowler on there?
Yep, Zachary Fowler.
I like that guy. I watch his show.
He's
Thank
good.
you, Joe. Samurai Bird, good seeing you. So let's talk about that a little bit, because one of the things, and we'll just turn this kind of into a fireside bullshit type chat. One of the things that I want to do, and I'm moving towards, is just the campings. I like camping, right? I'm getting used to it. But there's just something to me about going out in the woods and seeing if you can do it.
Yep. That's it.
You know what I'm saying?
You don't have to go out and plan, I'm going to do this month-long survival trek. I'm not going to go out there and bushcraft rough it for 3 weeks straight. Even if it's an overnighter, even if it's 2 hours, as long as you're getting out there and trying it and practicing your skills, that's where it's really at. But I love the primitive camping. The sad thing here for South Dakota is we have extraordinarily extreme fire danger right now, as most of the country is, and we're on lockdown, banned from campfires. So it's kind of difficult for doing primitive camping without having a campfire. That's a bummer.
Yeah, that's tough. Most Wingman's comment, for most folks, their health takes them out of the show alone. It's tough to endure day after day trying to survive when you have a set. Yeah, absolutely. If you got a way to tap.
Yeah. If you got a way to tap, that's hard. That's where the mental game comes in. And, for when it comes down to alone, like a lot of people, I don't want to judge anyone saying that they've got the money on their mind. Now, granted, winning $500,000 is going to be on everyone's mind. You came out there for the contest. You came out there to win. But you got to also keep in mind that you're out there for a goal. You have to get that goal is to be the last person left. You can't think about, I got to get that money and I'm going to just starve myself to death. You've got to get out there and keep that goal of, I need to make every day count and stay as grounded as possible, keeping it in forefront of your mind that you're out here for the long run. You need to keep your mind practiced on what you need to do for that day. And health reasons, now granted, you can have unforeseen sicknesses, illnesses. We've seen on several contestants who got cut, got spider bites, fell, broken ankle, things like that, unforeseen. So if you had to tap out due to a medical injury or something, that's perfectly fine. I give nothing but the most credit to everyone.
Well, let me ask you this. You get to take 10 items?
Yes.
What's your 10?
I'm not going to tell.
Would you take the Ares?
That's the Ares or the Artemis.
Okay. And you only get one cutting tool, right?
No, you can choose, but it comes from your 10 tools. So you get your 10 items.
I'd take 10 knives and just be like, attaboy, dumbass. I couldn't.
You can't duplicate, so you can't take multiple areas. You can't take, multiple belt knives, but I would absolutely take something similar to the Ares, more than likely the Ares and a multi-tool. And I'd forego an axe for a saw.
Yeah. Well, with the Ares, Pistol Pete, what's up, buddy? Good night, Maurice. With the Ares, especially, and I'm excited to get the production run. I think you'd be fine. Now, BC Gerbs, who's in the group, they filmed several episodes, I believe, on the island he lives on. And right now there's a burn ban on. So I would I think that would be, if you're okay, you're going to survive cool beans, just like you said, but you can't have a fire.
Yep.
Well, that adds, and not even for heat and cooking. Yeah, you got to have that. But man,
It's
just the
morale.
comfort of that fire.
Yeah.
You
Once
know?
you build a fire, it's morale, really. A fire
Right.
boosts morale. Let's face it, fire is what separates man from animals. I mean,
Right.
that's truly what it does. Where our ability to create something like that is what separates us from the wild beasts. So when you make a fire, that's primal. That's showing you're conquering your landscape. And fire is huge. So in all these places where the fire ban's going on and they're rampant everywhere, even you can't even have, fireworks on the 4th of July. In
Right.
some places, some counties, they are even locking down on outdoor smoking cigarettes. Really? Yeah. And it's rough right now. I mean, this drought is kicking everyone's butt.
Eric Outer's in the house. What up?
Oh, hey, Eric.
What it do? Grugsy asked, DB, have you spoken in detail to anyone from Alone? And does the show really vet the contestants? Grugsy's having. Here's the deal, Grugs. I think I can answer this part. What they do, man, is at the end of the day, it's a show. Mm-hmm. At the end of the day, it's got to have viewers. So they're going to take somebody they know ain't going to make it. And it sucks, but they do because it's ratings. They're going to take somebody to play on your emotions. They're going to take some, so that do they vet them? Yeah, but they vet them in I would say almost a wicked way. Because
it's never been officially confirmed, but it's highly assumed. It's never been officially said that we're picking a certain individual on their chances to win versus their chances to add drama to the show. Right. But we can assume it. It's television. You have to have good television.
Yeah. Well, you're talking about a burn ban and all that. I was talking to one of the guys today at work. We went to lunch, and I believe he was saying out on the salt flats, they've got 2 or 3 inches of standing water. They've had their rain. Yeah. They've had their yearly rain in like 2 days. So it's kind of crazy. And I can tell you here, there's no burn ban. In Florida, we've had monsoons.
Yeah.
But getting back kind of on track and to what we were talking about too, with the knives, I think if you do, and I hope you get accepted, that will be awesome. But I think you do have to I think there's a lot to take into consideration there.
Yep.
Like I would say, you're used to cooler, cold weather. Mm-hmm. I wonder how you'd fare like in the Everglades.
I'm originally from Virginia, so I was born and raised right by the ocean. So humidity and mosquitoes aren't nothing new to me. But
I'm saying that's just thank you, Brandon. Good seeing you, buddy. Timbo. But I mean, that's kind of because I would think you get your mindset on something and then you go, huh?
Yeah, everything changes.
Yeah,
everything changes.
Yeah. Now, tell me a little bit about your landscape where you live. Is it wooded?
It's wooded, yes. We have varying degrees of wooded areas. Closer to the Black Hills where I'm at, it's thickly dense. I should say thickly dense for South Dakota. Pine and spruce and cedar. A lot of softwoods, and then of course you got your birch and your dogwood, and mostly softwood around here. And when you get out into the prairie, well, then there's just grassland as far as I could see, practically, especially towards like Wyoming, going over to Nebraska. You got a lot of wide open expanses where trees are kind of hard to find.
I got you. So it changes now. Good night, Rusty. Where originally are you from?
I'm originally from Virginia.
Okay. And then moved to South Dakota.
Yep. Moved here when I was about 9.
Okay. So you spent most of your life where you're at.
Yep. Been here 25 years.
I got you.
Yep.
So let me ask you this. Shoot, it's been like 50 minutes. We'll go for about 15 more if you want to. Are there any plans in the future? What do we got coming on the horizon for a new knife design? You got anything?
Yes, got several. A lot of you are already privy to the Kronos. So here's a wooden mock-up of the Kronos. So that's in the works right now. Whenever Mr. Vic gets a free time to get all his CAD drawings and 3D models printed up, and that
So
will be in the works.
That's coming through Work Tough Gear.
Yep.
Okay.
Yes, at least of course I can't, I hope,
Yeah, no.
I should say. The Kronos is coming from Work Tough Gear, but then there's also the Hemlock Artemis. That's one I'm working on right now.
Okay.
And that one is in prototyping stage with another gentleman who's cooking up my prototype. I've already approached Vic about it and spoke with him, and I told him I'm waiting to do extensive testing first before I bring it to the table for an actual, moving towards a production version. But yeah, the Artemis I'm really excited for. That's going to be something really down my line, what I love with the whole tracker knives. So
yeah, you're getting a lot of positive feedback on the Kronos. Show that again. I'm kind of fired up about that one.
The Kronos is going to be an interesting one. Tell me.
Give me some details that you can.
Okay. Starting off, when you ever say the words tactical sacks in the same sentence, you're putting a bullseye on your head, ready for the purists to just take you down. But a sax knife, historically speaking, has been a utilitarian knife. It's been a carving knife. It's been a fighting knife. It's, adopted into swords. It's been used throughout history for fighting. It's been used throughout history as an everyday carry. I wanted to go more towards the fighting Bowie knife aspect of it, with the no nonsense, no bullshit sax knife design to get the wicked stab, the cant of the blade being for a nice cut. If you look, trying to get this in the picture frame here.
You have I see the forward cant there.
As a forward cant. So per slash, everything is drugged through the blade on a slash. When you do a stab, that tip is right in line with your wrist. So you're not moving your wrist out of the way on a stab. It's right in line, good, solid lockup. So the Kronos really is my take on I hate to say it again, but a shit hit the fan fighting knife. I wanted a knife that was going to brawl, to duel, to really parry, block, skull crush with a D guard on it. I wanted to be able to have multiple grip options so you can get that reverse cut on it, multiple ways to hold it so you can get that stab. But it's really not a survival knife. It is about fighting.
The wingman asked a question, and I've got a follow up on the for the sacks. We'll do mine first because that's my show. And I do agree with John, but on the D guard, D guard's also a hot topic in the knife community.
It is. It is.
I've got one on the way from Tim Ellis.
Nice.
With a D guard through Carnivora. Tell me your thought behind the D guard, because I think because again, hand size.
Hand size is
different.
Hand size is huge.
Give me a little.
Hand size is huge. Yeah. You've got, when you're developing a D guard, you really got to start putting it into perspective if it's not everyone has the same size hands you are. So one of the very first things you want to do is throw on some thick leather gloves and try grabbing your prototype. You want to make sure that even with the thick, heavy gloves on, you've still got space between that D guard. Otherwise, it's going to mess up someone else's day who's got way bigger hands than you. So developing the D guard and also keeping it streamlined is a very challenging task that right off the bat, both Vic and I both were talking about it. It's one of those really got to crunch the numbers to get it exactly where we want it to be without having a humongous bulbous D guard. I wanted to keep it streamlined while still giving it about a half an inch between your knuckles to play with. So now if you've got hands the size of Andre the Giant, chances are it's not going to fit. but for 90% of people, I want it to be able to fit and be comfortable. And I might even elongate that just a little bit more just to give people a little bit more room. But the way I see a D-guard is, and I don't want to get into too much detail since this is on YouTube. This is, I got to curtail some of it.
Just keep it.
A D-guard is exactly what it looks like. It's a knuckle duster. It's there to protect your knuckles, and it's there to do dirty deeds. That's why in trench warfare, back in World War I, World War II, there was a lot of knuckle duster knives. There was a lot of brutal tactics involved with D-guard blades. It goes farther back than that. I mean, the Confederacy even had D-guard, Bowie knives that they carried. So there is a point behind it. It's there to protect you, but it's also there to parry and do dirty deeds behind it. Yeah. And that's what the Kronos really is designed to be a nasty fighter.
Well, and that's the way we'll test it and demo it when it comes out.
Yep.
I actually have the D-Bad Old War Bowie, and it was designed off of and it's got I think a 18 or 24 inch blade, and it's got the D-guard. I personally like D-guards.
I do too.
As my hand fits, I always have.
Yep.
I like that aspect of it. Would I hit somebody? Whatever. Yeah. But it's nice to know it's there.
Yeah.
Right.
It removes the utilitarian function of it right off the bat. You got to say it does not. It's just not a kitchen knife. It's not something you're going to throw on your cutting board and cut up a pear. It's not designed. There's nothing designed about the Kronos for you to get out there and make a feather stick. It's not going to be designed for you to go baton and chop through wood with. It's not going to be designed for you to take into the woods and go clean a trout. This is designed to put in your truck, to put on your chest, put on your hip. When you've got a scenario and you're in a bad situation, it's a knife designed to keep you alive, and they aren't furry, cuddly woods friends I'm talking about. It's designed for a close CQC situation, and it really derives right back to the age-old fighting knife with the Bowie knife. Some trace elements of the kukri design with the handle cant to it, so that it's more in line with your hand. A lot of geometry went into the Kronos. The wooden prototype is a mock-up, really to just kind of like show what it does. But when it comes down to when the prototype arrives and everything, you'll get to see how the geometry comes into place and why it is the way it is.
Right. Now, with that, what kind of blade length are you looking at? And then I do want to discuss John's question.
As far as the blade length goes, I'm not going to give out any like permanent details yet, because
give me a roundabout. Give me within
about
2 inches.
About 7 to 8. Yeah.
Okay. Now, back to John's question, which I think is a valid point. Is there any chance of having a smaller Ares made? And I don't know how you would.
I get that question a lot. I get that question probably more than anything. Here's the key with the Ares, and I'm going to just go ahead and say, if there is enough demand for a smaller, more belt knife friendly EDC version of the Ares, not going so small as a neck knife, but more belt knife friendly, yes, I could see one coming down the pipes. But the purpose-driven design of the Ares, why it's designed the way it is, why the geometry is, the handle design, everything from the balance to the fuller, everything about it is designed with a purpose. When you scale that down, you lose all that purpose.
That's what I was thinking.
Yeah, it just becomes a cool-looking knife at that point in time. It's not even there for what it's supposed to do. And I mean, a prime example is what I've told people is, if I want to top down a tree, build a shelter, I'm going to take the Ares with me. But if I'm going to work, I've got my Phobos on me. So, I mean, I'm a fan of making a smaller version of it for the coolness factor. I think it'd be really cool to see one that's more belt knife friendly, but I know that it will not hold up to what I designed the Ares to represent, what I want it to do. So it just depends on what the community wants. If there's enough demand for it, then I could cook something up.
But I think it would be cool. Good night, Brandon. Have a good one. I think it would be cool. And I think it's always good to have something to add to your repertoire, add to the, I tell you what, man, let's start bringing this thing to a head because I got to get up early. Tell me this. A year from now, where do you want to be?
A year from now,
in the knife world,
I'd like to open myself up with Hemlock Customs into the laser engraving side of things, if possible. That's going to be a huge expenditure. But honestly, I'd like to move into a more constant basis for knife designs. I would like to see knives more free-flowing on the market, more availability, and more designs coming down the pipes, and ultimately using my designs for everyday purposes and wilderness survival and moving towards that goal.
I like it. I see you there. I think you're on the way. Let me say this to you personally, man. Thank you for coming on. You and I
it was an
talked
honor.
over the
Thank you
past
for having me.
year, and I look forward to you coming back. Well,
Definitely.
guys, we're going to call it a night. DB, appreciate you, brother. Hang out with me when we go off for just a second. Guys, check out the Aries. Listen to me. Y'all go to Instagram, DB Hemlock. You owe it to yourself. Knife Candy, good night. Grugsy, Joe, thank you. Jerbs, thank you.
Yep. Thank you, everyone. Thank you for hanging out.
Love you, brother.
Always.
All right, my man.
Subscribe.
We'll talk to y'all tomorrow. Later.
Peace.
This always takes